first and last Member of Parliament, I'm absolutely delighted with this result. A lot of people like me, 3.8 million of us, supported UKIP for the last election because we were so passionate about that referendum. Now what we need to do is make sure that Theresa May gets a mega mandate to go and make sure that we get on with it and get Brexit and get the deal that's in our interest. And I think we're starting to see that, and I think it's wonderful to watch.
For those UKIP people, former colleagues of yours, telling us today that this is all about a challenge to rebrand, it's a challenge to get new leadership, to get the party to put forward new radical policies. There is a future for UKIP. What do you say to them?
There are a lot of good people in UKIP, and I wouldn't want to say anything unkind, but we all know that it's over. We all know that let's be frank, I'd be surprised if UKIP manages to field more than 100 candidates in the general election. I don't mean that in an aggressive, insulting way. It's just a reflection of the fact that thousands of UKIP supporters and activists out there realise that actually the only way to make sure we get the deal that we now need to get is to make sure that Theresa May has a mega mandate on June the 8th. And there are all sorts of areas where we may disagree with the Tories. Many people may hold their nose when they vote for their local Sir Bufton Tufton. But, Theresa May's candidates have to be returned to the building behind me so she can make sure we get the deal in our interest. And I think people realise that. And that's why we're going to see some pretty big support. We get a lot of straight switches in these local elections. I hope that's replicated in the general election. Straight switches from UKIP to the Conservatives to make sure that she gets on with it.
Just look at the figures here, Douglas. While you're with us, I'm just looking at some of the figures for England and the share change since 2013. You just look at these because they're quite remarkable. We're looking at the share change since 2013. In England, I'm stressing 13% up for the Tories, 2% down for Labour, 3% up for the Lib Dems, 15% down for UKIP. So we see that 15 has almost become a 13 on the other side, if you want to make that straight switch.
Yep.
And that's what you were saying, isn't it? That's the precise point you were making.
Absolutely. And isn't it a great compliment to Britain's political culture that this mood of anti-establishment politics is manifested in record support for a vicar's daughter from Maidenhead? Compare that to what's happening in France. This is great news for the country and for our democracy.
I'm not sure that Theresa May sees herself as the anti-establishment candidate there, Douglas.
Well, I think that's exactly why she's doing so well. She's running both as the establishment candidate and as the insurgent candidate. That's why she's in this uniquely strong position.
For those people who, you've been campaigning in recent years, you've been telling people that UKIP is the answer, and this was before Brexit and indeed to some extent after it. I'm just wondering what they make now of a message from you, which is now radically different again in party terms.
Well, there was this window of opportunity for about 6 to 8 weeks after the Rochester by-election when we could have been the equivalent of a libertarian version of the SDP. We could have broken the political cartel. But I'm afraid we didn't change gear, we didn't change our tone. That window of opportunity is closed. I think the sensible thing for anyone out there who used to support UKIP to do is to recognise that, no party is perfect, but it's a choice between a chaotic Corbyn administration or Theresa May getting on with it. And I think on that basis alone, we'll see the vast majority of UKIP voters at the last general election make that change too. I made that change. It's a difficult change to make, but we shouldn't make this with any sense of regret. We do this as a party that's been 100% successful. We're the only party in British history that can go home knowing that we've done exactly what we set out to achieve. That's a wonderful feeling.
And you seem to be in full agreement with Aaron Banks, who said today the current leadership has crashed the car at the first bend of the race. UKIP, under the current leadership, without positive radical policies, is finished as an electoral force. But I suppose the point there, Douglas, is that he's saying that possibly with positive radical policies, it wouldn't be finished.
Well, I don't, with respect, take Aaron with anything more than a pinch of salt. But, he's entitled to his views, as are some of UKIP's other members. I think what really matters is what the 3.8 million UKIP voters decide to do. And it's clear that whatever the leadership in UKIP decides, that the base, the core support, the people who voted for us last time, they're off. We've lost about half our vote. I reckon in the next 3-4 weeks, we're going to see UKIP down to possibly 1, 2, 3% in the polls. But that's a good thing. That means that we've done our job. We should be happy about that fact.